What's going on? Welcome to the evening run of the Dominance Academy. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I had a little problem outside the house. You know, I sometimes love New York City, and sometimes I fucking hate New York City. And like this place is just great. There's so much culture here. There's so many awesome people. The art, the music, the vibe, just everything. It's New York is amazing. And then there's nights like this where I hear this woman screaming outside, and I'm thinking, what's got to be the problem? There's what's going on. So I go outside, and I look, and next door, outside the bodega that's closed, there's this woman, and she's on the ground, and she's pissed drunk, screaming, crying, and things like that. And she's like, I want my mommy, grown woman. Okay. And and then there was this other woman who was not as drunk, but definitely drunk. And then a younger guy who he was not intoxicated at all, trying to get her to put her clothes back on and to get her up off the ground and stop pounding the roll gate and causing such a racket, and carrying on and screaming and crying. And I go out, I'm like, hey, like, is she all right? Does she need medical attention? And he's like, no, she's just really drunk. I said, listen, you guys got to, like, I'm asking, like, please, like, move this along, like, take her into the car and go somewhere, because my kids are trying to sleep. And then, of course, I didn't have any attitude about it. And then, like, it just escalated. Like, I was trying to, like, de-escalate, to say, hey, buddy, take these women and just go. And then they're escalating, and one chick, the one who was less drunk, she decided to come up onto the property, and I had to call the police. And I'm just like, come on, like, this place sucks sometimes. Just want to have a nice evening while my kid's sleeping, and have a good stream. It just blows my mind. But I get it. Apparently her mom died, and she's flipping out. And my father died, and that was not easy for me, so I can understand. So let's check out the intro, get into the headspace, and then we're going to jump into the topic at hand.
Welcome to the Dominance Academy, where we specialize in revitalizing manhood and leadership. Our approach focuses on developing men to lead with strength and passion, enriching their lives and their families. We provide practical solutions and expert guidance in the realms of sexual education and the mysteries behind polarity and structured power dynamics. Join us at thedominanceacademy.com and restore harmony to your home while rediscovering the joy of a fulfilling masculine presence. It's time to step into your role as a leader and as a man. And now, the host of the show, Mr. Justin.
All right, so the gift of dominance. It's a topic that I was thinking about, because I was listening to a number of different angles about submission, and a lot of subs will say that submission is a gift. They keep saying submission's a gift, it's a gift, blah blah blah, and then other women saying that a woman should never submit. She can't, real women don't submit, and not in like a tough way, but more so to say that they already know what to do. And this is just entirely untrue. So, hang on one second. Yeah, so basically, this idea, when a woman will say submission is a gift, this is typically coming from the position where their submission was not appreciated. where either they were coerced or manipulated, or they just gave over their submission to a dom or to a man, and it was not nurtured, it was not cared for, it was not appreciated, and then she felt used, and then the reaction to that is to then protect the thing that you want to hold on to. Okay, so, and then say, all right, this is very, very special, this awesome special thing that I can do for a man or a dom, and so I'm going to put it up high on a pedestal and say submission is fantastic. Okay, and so I get the perspective. And then this is often strengthened by weak men, because within the BDSM space, it is not safe from simps at all. It's not safe from incels. It's not safe from nice guy syndrome. So don't think that they're, and it's actually worse, because people, you take, say, like the guy with nice guy syndrome, and you mash it together with kink, and then you've got something really, really bizarre. Okay, so it actually gets worse in the BDSM community, and so you've got nice guys who do just what they do in conventional society, where they say, oh, a woman, they need to be like, honored, cherished, and all that stuff. And yes, they should be respected, but they do it extra. Okay, they've got this extra thing because it's being pushed by a nice guy, right? It's being pushed by a simp. And so they're strengthening these claims. They're like, yes, girl, you're absolutely right. Your submission is such a gift. But what they're really doing is they're virtue signaling. They're trying to make themselves sound more virtuous to either that woman who's making the post or whatever, or the two other women who are, say, in the chat or in the live comment section. And it's really not genuine. They don't really know really what's going on. What's up to the folks here? King Solo Power, Marius K, Tom Spellings. Good to see you guys. All right, so really, when you are, you are I would just say a good dom. Okay, meaning that you're not abusing women, you're not taking advantage of your power, you're not sleeping on the fact that this person has given you their submission, that you're caring for it and guiding it and not taking it for granted. All right, let's just say all those things are there. Basically, a good dom. What you give to her, what really is the gift, is your dominance. And the reason being is that a woman who is submissive can bring herself into a certain state, a certain level of submission that is, I guess, it's functional. It's like a functional level of submission that can be certainly applied to any guy that she feels safe enough to do so with. But she can't go any deeper than that. All right, because in order to do that, she must relinquish some of her will. She must relinquish some of her pride. She must relinquish some of her ego. And that is not done by the self. It cannot be done in that way, because once those things fall away or they reduce, it requires another force to kind of take up the mantle. Okay, and grab those reins again and guide the will and the ego. So it can't really drop off until there's somebody who has taken it up. All right. So, but once they do that, once they're able to release some of their ego, release some of their pride, release some of their independence, and the good dom takes it up, this now takes her into a deeper level. Okay, this takes her to a deeper level of self that she cannot really achieve on her own. And what this does is it relieves her of certain things. It relieves her of, say, overthinking. It relieves her of self-doubt. It relieves her of insecurities. It opens her up to allowing herself to feel even more feminine, allowing herself to relax, allowing herself to move away from decision making. And this, like, there's so many more factors that are involved. But the point is that it gives her a sense of relief and freedom that she cannot grant to herself. She can grant it just to a certain point, like I said, and then it needs to be taken up by someone else who can guide the rest of the way. And it can go very deep and like various levels depending on where they want to go, well, what her capabilities are, what his capabilities are, and so on, what their goals are. But the point is that she can't do it on her own. And when she's there, it's this wonderful thing. It's this wonderful state of mind. It's a wonderful state of being. And this is why dominance is a gift. Because when you're doing it right, you're literally changing some of their brain states. You're changing the way a woman can feel about herself. And this is not for the faint of heart, okay? Like, this isn't, hey, what's up, Mitch? Doing good, man. Now that I've called the cops on some drunken, belligerent people who are outside my place, everything is well. I don't know who the hell is calling me with no caller ID, but they can go take a hike. So yeah, this is why dominance is a gift. And like I said, it's not for the faint of heart. It's for it's for someone who is willing to take that responsibility. Okay, that's what it really requires of you, because if oh my God, maybe this is the cops. Hold on a second. Yep, that was the cops calling. I told the operator that they had sped off and to not send any officers, but whatever, And the driver was not intoxicated, so that's good. But anyway, so like I was saying, you have to be of the mindset that if a woman is going to give you her submission, you can't sleep on it. You can't kick your feet up. You can't indulge too much into it, because truth be told, it's a great sensation. It's really cool. Like, it's a really cool thing to observe, and it can make you feel a certain way. It can make you feel good, and but you can't really relish in it for too long. Just acknowledgement and enjoy, but understand that there's greater tasks, there's greater things that you need to pay attention to, and this is what's really important. Like, this is where the focus must be. Like, really just focused on the process, not on the pleasure that you're gaining from these things. Okay, and that's really what's important here. But it's not easy. Okay, like it's not an easy task, because it's something that you have to be thinking about and acting upon on a daily basis. All right, and someone who is very pleasure driven, what they're going to do is they're going to consume her too much. And this is something you have to watch out for, because you can suck a woman's energy dry. Okay, so you have to control your lust. You have to control your thirst for lust and your hunger for her body. And because that's not what it's about. That's not what this is about. Because she'll be giving you everything anyways. She'll be giving you her body however way you want or need. And it's not about that. It's about something deeper. So you have to realize that when a woman submits to you, she's giving over her mind and her heart as well as her body. But the body, that's easy to take care of. But and you can tell the body very easily, like when it's doing well and when it's not doing well. Like symptoms are very easy to detect. But how do you tell when your sub or your woman's mind is not doing well? And how do you tell when it is doing well? How do you tell when her emotions are not doing well and when they are doing well? And these are things that you have to really pay attention to. These are things that you have to watch very regularly and constantly monitor, and to really sort out if there needs to be anything done, anything that needs to be fixed, anything like course corrected, or everything's doing good and you need to reward or something along those lines. And I just don't think that a lot of guys are really prepared for this side of things. What's up, Uncle Guns? I'm still thinking about that t-shirt, man. Earlier today, Guns made a joke about making a t-shirt, like a him and a her shirt. And you see those ones, like they sell them at like boardwalks and stuff. And it's like a shirt set that you buy together. And it says, one shirt says like idiot. And then the other shirt says, I'm with the idiot, or something along those lines. And he thought of one that said like, the one that says simp. And then the other shirt that the woman would wear says, I'm with simp. And there's like maybe an arrow pointing this way or something like that. I thought that was funny. But yeah, I think, and I saw this when talking with another Dom, and he's part of like a group chat. And, these guys, they hear stories, right? They hear stories about what it's like on the receiving end of being a dominant, right? And either playing the role, or you've integrated this into your life and it's part of your relationship, it's part of your identity, that sort of thing. And so they hear the accolades, they hear about the perks and things of that nature, and they're like, man, that sounds cool, that sounds fun, that sounds sexy, I want that. That sounds awesome, right? To have a woman treating you this way. And so they go for the end result, right? They tell their girlfriends that they need to wear a collar, and not understanding the structure that's required that builds up to the point of wearing a collar. He just wants to see his woman wearing a collar. Setting up rules and things like that, saying like, you can't do this, you must do that. You have to call me this, you can't call me that, without the prior structure, the prerequisite structure that's supposed to be there in order to have those end things, right? It's kind of like someone who's starstruck about professors, like college professors, and like, man, I want to be a professor. I want people to call me doctor, because it's so cool when people call you, not Mr. Adams, but Dr. Adams. Right? I want to hear people call me Dr. Adams. So I want people to just call me Dr. Adams. I'm going to have my woman call me Dr. Adams, and I'm going to get like a little blazer with the leather on the elbows and carry a little other briefcase. And that's not really what makes the doctorate, right? It's the fucking years of study and the dedication and the fucking hard work and all that shit that they put in to get that title. And so guys get enamored with the look and the title and the things that come with that, and having like random people just call you doctor and that sort of thing. And they're like, I want that shit. And they try to cut to the ends. They try to cut to the chase and get those gifts at the end, thinking that that's what really makes it. As long, and that's just all ego. That's just all ego. Like, as long as she's calling me sir, then I'm happy. And it's like, yeah, but what's the whole entire structure of the relationship? What's the structure of her? What's the structure of you? Are you monitoring how things are going? Is there any kind of, is it growth minded? What's going on here? Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So, that's really what they're after. But when you're here, and you have that internal structure, and you are, um, it's the development is much easier. It's much easier. And then when you get the things, when it's that time to create the titles, or to, so to speak, put on the jacket with the leather patches on the elbows, it's not a reach. You're not reaching for it. It just makes sense for the time. Okay? So I hope that makes sense, and that you guys aren't going after these things because just for the sake of having them, or so you can don the title or whatever. That understands that if you're interested in producing the gift that I'm talking about, that you actually have to be the guy. You have to have that knowledge and that trust in yourself, and the confidence to carry these things out, and the diligence and the willpower and the faith. Like, it's all tied in, and you can't really put very much self-doubt into the mix. It doesn't work. And I mentioned this before, like, you can't be an effective leader and doubt yourself at the same time. Those two things cannot exist simultaneously within the same person. It's impossible. You have to have complete faith in yourself. And part of this, like, part of it is knowing your own limitations. So not so that, for any other reason, but to know where you need to educate yourself. And so you're always on this pathway of educating yourself to being a better Dom, to being a better man. Because you're not perfect. You're never going to be perfect. But it's not about being perfect. All right. And this is kind of like the trap of social media. And you guys get roped into thinking that there's such a thing as a perfect man. There isn't. There really isn't. But there is perfect acceptance of who you are. And then you can strengthen that with self-love. And this is probably the closest you can get to perfection. But if you had perfection, then I don't know, maybe you wouldn't even exist at all. So it's like part of the human condition to not be perfect, because this gives us things to do in life. Like, we would be bored as fuck if we were perfect. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, that you yourself, how you move, how you think, how you express yourself, this is the gift that brings her deeper into herself. Okay? That's where the gift lies. So I also wanted to touch on really quick, this is going to be a short episode, but I wanted to talk about a little bit of the types of dominance. Okay. And I picked these up from, this is not stuff that I've come up with, but I've really not, I've seen this within my own life, but I've not, the information from the book, I have no problem with it. Like, I've not seen any errors and nothing that I disagree with. And it's from the book, The Heart of Dominance by Anton Fullman. And this has got to be, it's probably got to be one of the best books I've ever read about the dominance side of BDSM. It's a fantastic read, because he's not coming into it ever from like what you always see in these books on Amazon, like about BDSM from the dominant side. And it's just all about play and things to say and things to do and toys and shit like that. Okay? Like, that's not dominance. It has nothing to do with your specific words. That's just the fun stuff. And it's nothing to do with your toys or your appearance or anything. It's a mental state, and it's an understanding of the interplay between your mind and her mind, and knowing how to conduct that dance. This is what dominance is about. It goes much deeper into the mind. Okay, so let's just touch on the types of dominance from this book. Okay, so the first one is control. This is probably the most basic form of dominance that shows up. And the flavor of this dominance is just basically directly concerned with taking charge and making all the decisions. Okay. And that's basically it. And how this looks can be extremely granular, right? So I've worked with doms who they wanted control over every hour of their submissive lives. You want control over every single thing that they read, everything they did, everything that they wore, everything they eat or drink, everything they see or listen to. They want complete control over everything. Okay? Now you might be thinking that's insane. And you know what? I think that's insane, because the mental work that must be done it'd be a lot. It'd be a shit ton. Okay. But the fact that I'm saying it's work shows me that this isn't the type of thing for me, like that level of control. Okay. I don't have that itch in me to have that much control. And the right kind of sub for that type of that granular control is going to fit well with him. Okay. Because she's going to want to have that much decision making lifted off of her shoulders. She literally doesn't want to think about anything, right? She doesn't want to think about what to wear each day. Maybe that stresses her out. She doesn't want to think about what to eat every day, because maybe that stresses her out. She doesn't want to think about what to do or what's next or what her hobbies are or what her goals are. He's controlled all of that and decided everything for her. Okay. And for this type of submissive, there's great intimacy in this. There's great intimacy because with heavy control type dominant relationships is a lot of ritual and protocol. And the ritual and protocols are the things that actually really bring them together, because this is where they have sort of like this bonding, and it's a different type of intimacy other than, say, sensual or loving or romantic or sexual intimacy. It's a different kind of intimacy, but they get the same kind of charge from it. Okay, they get the same kind of fulfillment from it. And like I said, the control aspects can range. It can be from very general, and I've met doms who they want control over just a few things. And then I've met doms who want control over everything, and then doms who they're somewhere in the middle, right? So there's no real set form that this takes. Actually, with none of these, there's no set form, okay? Peach Rose, what's up? Good to see you here. God, yes, it does. I have no idea what that means. So I'm sure it was in reference to something that I said, but maybe about the bringing peace. So you'd be surprised that, like, oh yeah, as I go through these, a lot of times these different things, they cross over, and that happens a lot in BDSM, right? So you could have, like, the next one is conquest. So there's control, conquest, devaluation, nurture, and objectification. So you could have various combinations of these where it's control but also nurture, right? You could have conquest and devaluation, or devaluation and objectification. So, or more than, like, you could have all of them existing all together, but just in varying degrees. All right. But these are like just the basic categories. All right. So just understand that's not perfectly parsed out and into like these slots, and like you're wondering, well, what kind of dom slot do I fit into? It's not really like that. Okay, it's more or less like if you can imagine sliders, say like in an audio studio where they have those sliders on the board, and each of these is a different slider, and some guys will have higher or lower sliders in these various categories. Okay. I am doing well, Peach. Referring to when I said the dominance goes deeper than what you think. Yes, it does. Absolutely. It's just a matter of if the dom bringing you there really knows how to nurture that, because like I was saying, like once a woman lets go and from the portions of control that she has over her will, her ego, her pride, her independence, all that stuff, she doesn't want to fall. Because who knows, maybe she could lose her mind. Who knows? So there has to be someone there to kind of catch her before she falls to pieces. Okay. So the next one here is conquest, and the flavor of this type of dominance is around the struggle. Okay. Now this doesn't mean that you're with a disrespectful woman. All right. There's an understanding here, and the understanding is that there is a struggle for power and the victory of the dom over the sub. And this can be physical or this could be mental. And what this is, it's about inspiring the sub to submit, inspiring the woman to submit through various types of force. And the best ones is when it's clever force, when you're using your mind to put her in catch-22s and to put her into double binds where she's damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. And she's like, fuck, you got me. And she has no other recourse but to bend a knee. Okay. And this can also be very physical. And this might be for people who are into CNC, or they're into like extreme physical dominance. Okay. And there's guys who are very much like that. And there's women who are very much into the receiving end of those things. And it's more complex than what I'm talking about here, because it's not just about force. Because with all of these, including conquest, there's a sense of intimacy that comes from this, and that has to do with when you get those puzzle pieces fitting together properly. You have a woman who they just can't just bow and bend a knee because you tell her to. It's like, no, there's just something in some women, they have to be brought to their knees, whether it's through wit or through your intelligence or through mental manipulation or through physical force. It's something in them that, like, yes, they're willing to submit, but there's a condition. It's like you have to make her in some way. And in my opinion, the best way to make her is to not use your hands at all. If you can fool her or put her in a position mentally that she has no other choice, that's incredibly powerful. Because a woman will respect a man who is more clever than she is. Okay. Now, there's not a lot of us men out there who are incredibly clever, because women, like I have to give it to you, you are incredibly clever creatures. But I love that about women. I love that they're so clever, right? Yes, through influence. Well, yeah, and that's very broad. And like I said, it's a very deep and convoluted topic about how that's done, and it requires a certain type of dom. So the slider on that board for that kind of guy, that conquest slider is going to be kind of high, right? And he's going to have that in him. Like he's into the chase. He's into the idea of one force taking over another force. All right. And it's completely fine, because always in these situations, there's consent. All right. So the next one here is devaluation. All right. So the flavor of this type of dominance is making the sub feel lesser than, lower in worth and dignity. And while on the other side, it's the dom feeling superior. Okay. And also degradation, it's also known as degradation or humiliation. So you can say devaluation, degradation, humiliation. Some people put these all together, And some people say, no, these are totally different concepts. All right. I just put them together because it's just easier that way. And so this one is actually even more complicated. All right. Because the sub who likes devaluation or degradation, there's this element of hurts so good. And I've described it to clients like where you're like picking a scab. Like it hurts, but it's somewhat satisfying at the same time. So the sub both craves and loathes the things that they have to go through. But what can happen, and this is not really paying it any sort of credence, because there's so much more to it. But what happens, generally speaking, is that a lot of times they will have a lot of shame and guilt in them already. A lot of shame, guilt, insecurities, things that they don't like about themselves, and so on. And so their slider for devaluation is kind of high. But the thing is that when the proper Dom comes through, who also appreciates devaluing and understands, he's a good Dom, he knows what he's doing. He's not just this sick fuck who likes to devalue women. And that's just it. Like, he just gets off on that. Like, he understands the internal mental structures at play, and he knows how to guide through it. He can then transmute that shame and guilt into intense excitement, passion, or a level of peaceful relief for her. And a lot of times, through certain play or certain practices or certain scenes, it actually can be used to help heal these things. All right. Now, you have to understand, and this happens a lot with Doms, especially when you start coming into understanding you do have influence, you do have power, you do have the ability to really get in someone's head and in their heart and start shifting things. Okay. You're not a healer. You're not a doctor. You're not a therapist. You're not her therapist. Okay? You're not her hero. You're not here to save her. Okay? You're here to accompany her or lead her through a journey of self. And should she want to heal further, that's when she can take it upon herself, or she can seek professional help if that's what's necessary. But I think sometimes, and I have to say this because you get to a certain point and it will bring up your ego, and you start thinking like you're this really powerful person, and you are as a good Dom, you are powerful. Okay. But sometimes it will get to our heads, and we'll start thinking that we're more powerful and more above human. Okay. And that's simply not the case. We will always be human. You will always be flawed, no matter how knowledgeable or skilled you are at leading. Okay. This is a very small bubble in the many bubbles of life. Okay. Just like influencing a woman. All right. Doesn't make you Superman. But if you're doing it right, you can become extremely helpful. You can become extremely helpful for somebody who is looking for guidance through certain things. Okay. The next one is nurture. Okay, this one's super common. All right, and so the flavor of the dominance that is nurturing, it's about taking care of a sub, right? And in that is support and development, and it's domination for their own good. All right, and a lot of times there's accountability that's brought into it. There's responsibility. There's guidance. And a big aspect of a nurturing type of Dom is the power of approval. And so what you'll find here in this type of thing is this is where you see like a lot of daddy Doms. Okay. And this can be, so you can find like a lot of daddy Doms who are like, kind of soft, caring, nurturing type dominance, like a loving father or a benevolent dictator. Okay. So it's sort of like that, but just kind of like pumped up a few levels. Okay. Still like that loving father, but it's just amplified more. right? And so there's more sternness. And this is actually one that I probably have a high level. My slider on the board for nurture is fairly high. And I think that might be due to just actually being a father. So I have that part of me, that caretaking, guiding, influencing for your own benefit type of vibe, like within me. Okay, that's part of my makeup at this point, anyways. And I think being a father helps bring that about in me. All right, but I'm fairly strict, so I'm kind of like that strict but loving father. That sort of type of vibe with my dominance. Okay, I also, though, I have a slider that's pushed up into control. I've got a slider that's pushed up into conquest. I have a slider pushed up into devaluation. But I think the highest one is actually nurture. Okay. And then the last one here is objectification. And this is one that I actually don't associate with at all. Like, the idea of it just doesn't move me in the slightest. And except in the sense of service. Okay, so let me explain. So objectification, the flavor of this type of dominance is making the sub into an object for your use. Okay. And of course, it's the sub. They have to kind of, in order for one to exist, the other has to exist. Okay. So for the doms that love objectification, there are plenty of subs that love to be objectified. It gives them a strong sense of fulfillment. Actually, all of these do. Like the subs that resonate with the other side of these types, it brings them great fulfillment. And so it's not exactly like, it's not a literal thing where, say, the sub is pretending to be some inanimate objects. That's not what it is. It's not imitation. It's that they are treated like this object. So, for example, like a common example is like a footstool. And the dom, like, I don't even know how it plays out because I just don't operate this way, but he instructs her to get on her hands and knees while he watches the game, and his feet are propped up onto her back. And she has to stay there, silent and incredibly patient, being his footstool while he watches the game. Okay? And this is, like, I don't get it, but I know it exists, but it's really fulfilling for a number of doms and subs out there. All right. So another way that this objectification can show up is through service. Okay. It's not just in sex, although it can be in sex. So like a common one, like a common sexual version of objectification is, you're not a person today. Today, you're going to be my fuck toy. And that's all you're going to be. You're not going to be hungry. You're not going to be tired. You're not going to have an opinion. You're not going to have a voice. You're going to have nothing. All you're going to be is an object for my pleasure. And you're just going to do as you're told. And that's it. And so that's like an example of, say, like the sexual side of objectification, right? Or they're like a robot. Okay? Today you're going to be my sex robot. Or a service, okay? Like a service maid. Then that's a form of objectification, where they're not really a person, they are hired help. And they're told what to do around the home. Okay? So this sort of thing, like, I appreciate service, but it's not something that like really moves me. All right. It's just something that I recognize, I appreciate. I do think that it should be done to certain degrees, from a sub to a dom, from a woman to a man. But the way that shows up should be different for everybody. And so the way it shows up for me is not as extreme as someone who has a strong objectification kink. Okay. I appreciate it. I love service, but I don't have a kink around it. Okay. So just know that these are just the 5 basic categories for submission. I'm sorry, for dominance. And they go deep. They go very deep. All right. And 11. All right, just say goodnight to the little one. So, like I was saying, these are just basic categories, and things go a lot deeper than that. But the way to really understand your dominance is like you have to expose yourself to more. You have to expose yourself to more of this stuff and take deep dives. Take deep dives into your own mentalities, into the things that you enjoy. Taking the BDSM test from like the BDSMtest.org, that's a good starting point. It's a good starting point to getting an idea of what type of Dom you are. Another one is to jump into your own fantasies and to really let your fantasies go. Now, it's going to be kind of hard for a lot of guys, especially if you've been watching too much porn, because your fantasy is going to be pretty damn short. Okay? You want to be able to drag your fantasies out. Drag them out into full-on scenes. Okay? And this is what will help you. This is what will help you really understand your own mind, right? By making it express itself. All right. So when you express yourself into the form of writing down your fantasies and not just thinking about it, you have to write it. Okay. This will allow you to explore your own mind and give yourself permission to have kinks, permission to think of really wild shit, because hey, no one's going to see this stuff. So if there's some really bizarre shit in there, who cares? The point is that you're developing a communion with yourself. Okay? And then once you get a greater understanding of this sort of thing, then you're better equipped to express it when you're with a woman, because you know more of what you're about. You know how to lead through that. And then it makes vetting. So there's a lot of vetting involved if you're into play partners and things of that nature. You're going to dungeons or play parties or things of that nature. You're going to meet all kinds of different women. You're going to meet all different kinds of subs, and they don't want to be taken on a ride that you don't know how to drive. Okay, you want to take people on a ride who's interested in your type of drive that you know how to do. All right. So if you don't know anything about degradation and they have a very strong degradation kink, don't try it. Don't wing it. All right. Unless you're both very open-minded, it's very easygoing, and you can explain to them. All right. So part of being a good leader, part of being a good dominant is being honest. And if you don't know how to do something, if you don't know much about a certain something, and the other person is willing to explore, because they might know more than you as a sub, you have to be okay with that. And tell them explicitly, I'm not super knowledgeable about this. And then it can be a fun thing, the two of you doing, of making this like part play, part learning process. And there's people who are completely willing to engage in that kind of play. All right. Others would be like, you know what, I'm not into that. Like, no disrespect, but I kind of want to have that full on experience with somebody who knows what they're doing in this specific area. Okay. And then if that leads you to wanting to learn more about that thing, like I said, it's an ongoing process. You're always learning. You're always growing. You're never done. You're not perfect. So you're ever evolving. And so, like, if that's something you realize that you want to learn more about, then you have to dive in. You're going to have to dive in and understand, like, if in the case of degradation, you're going to have to dive in and understand the psychology behind degradation. Why are people moved by this sort of thing? And that must require you to not have any judgments about it, right? You can't learn and judge at the same time. You just have to be open, all right? And then once you gain an understanding of a certain something, then you can drive it to your liking, okay? So, like, not all DOMs will use the same, even if they're into degradation, they're not going to use the same terminology because it just doesn't sit well with them. Okay. So like one, one guy might be fine with calling his sub a cocksleeve, and the other guy's like, oh, that's like gross, that's crass, like that's not classy, right? And yeah, there's guys who think there's probably classy versions of degradation. All right, that is to him distasteful. The other guy's like, no, this is what I like to use. This like works for me saying this. So, and then there's going to be women who like to hear that, and women who are disgusted by that, even though they're into degradation. So the point is that just because, say, a woman's into degradation doesn't mean she's into all of it. All right? Like I've mentioned this before, like, my girl has a certain level of this. Like her slider is moderate when it comes to degradation. And she's open to many things, most things actually, in terms of words that are used. She doesn't get offended by them. But there's one word I cannot use, the word stupid, because I can use dumb. I can call her a dumb cock whore, right? But I cannot use the word stupid, because from her past long time ago, she has some trauma around this word. And she explained it to me. I understand what it is. It's not a big deal for me, because it's not like I have a kink around, like a need around the word stupid. I have to use this word. Like it's not like that. It's like, whatever. It's just a word. No problem. But it's more valuable that I know about that stop sign, right? I know about that stop sign, and I know that I don't need to go there. I shouldn't go there, because if I do, it's going to kill the mood. It's going to bring up an emotion that's not useful for play. And this is the case for all of these categories. This is the case for all types of play. This is the case for all types of scenes, all right? Or if you're just having regular sex, right? It's important to know your person. Like if you're the type that likes to go deep, okay? I'm not the type that likes to go far. I've done that. I've gone wide. I've had multiple women at the same time, not in the same bedroom, but I've been operating with multiple women at the same period of time. And I didn't quite like it. Like it was fun, like kind of like going to an amusement park is fun, but that's not my type of amusement. I don't like amusement parks for amusement. They're okay, but it's like surface level fun. I like different experiences because I like to go deep. So, and when you're dealing with 4, 5, 6, 7 women at the same time, it's really hard to go deep with any of them, because that requires time and attention and detail. And if you've got a full-time job, if you've got a business, if you've got hobbies, like you don't have the time. There's only 24 hours in a day, and you need to sleep and eat. So it's like there's just not any time to go deep with all 6 of those women. Okay? Like kudos to the guys that can do that. All right? But that's not me. So, I don't do that. I take 1, possibly 2, even 2 at this point. Like just looking at how I operate and knowing how I am, even that would be daunting to go really deep. Okay? Because you have to learn and understand someone else's psychology on a level that you don't do with most people. Like you really have to know them and understand what makes them tick and why, like why they're ticking in certain ways. All right. And so, yeah, I enjoy that part of going deep. But it's different. It's different for everybody. It's really different for everybody. But you don't really know how you can go deep until you know more about yourself, of like what moves you, what inspires you, what gets you off, what gets you aroused, right? And so even if you're like looking at porn or something like that, which you shouldn't be doing very much of at all, because it really just doesn't do anything for your mind, is you got to think to yourself. I mean, you don't even have to watch porn, but you remember what you've seen, and you could say, what was it about that really turned me on? What was it? Just simply like penis and vagina movements? Like, probably not. There's probably something else there that you found really engaging, that drew you to that. Of the thousands that you could have chosen from, you chose that. Okay. And maybe it was just because the girl was hot or whatever. Okay. But when there's some other element there, like, you got to think to yourself, like, what was it that moved me? All right. And it's the same thing. Like, I talk about painting, like relationships to painting as well, like, because, I'm a visual artist. It's the same thing when you're trying to break down an image, and you say, okay, I love this painting. I love this image. I love this photograph or drawing or whatever. And it's not enough to just say, I appreciate that. Okay. If you really want to be able to do it on your own, you have to figure out, what is it? What's about that image that made me choose this one and say, wow, that's beautiful, and really break it down into specific parts. And so this is how you need to understand with your own arousal, your own fantasies, your own kink, and things of that nature. And so when you are able to break this down into a full understanding, that's when you can communicate it to another person. That's when you can lead them more effectively, because with knowledge, with self-knowledge, comes trust. And you have the trust and the faith in your own abilities based on what you know. Okay? If you know it, then, well, if you know it, then you can show it. But it's true. It just sounds kind of gay rhyming like that. But, if you know it, you can show it. And so, I implore you guys to really explore your own fantasies. Get a notebook specifically designed for writing your own fantasies. And know that it's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass at first. You're going to feel kind of dumb and awkward. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not watching a movie right now. I'm actually going to sit down and write, like, with some quiet or some music or whatever. I'm going to write my fantasies. Like, that's like, it's going to be kind of hard in the same sense where I'm like, okay, you want to learn how to draw. You're going to have to carve out specific time with a drawing pad and a pencil or a pen, and just sit there, listen to music, and just draw. And you're like, well, like, what do I draw? Like, how do I draw? Like, what am I doing? And it's like, well, you just have to start. You just have to start. It's going to feel awkward. All right. But you have to just do it. And then you keep doing it over and over and over. And then it becomes comfortable. And once you're comfortable, that's when your ideas start flowing. Okay. And this is absolutely something you can share with your woman. It's absolutely something you can share with your woman. It's something you can do together. All right. So if you're in a relationship, exploring fantasies is a lot of fun, where you can play that game where you write a line and then they write a line, and then you write a line and they write a line. And you can basically either do it in a notebook, or you can share, like, say, a Google document, and you both have editor permissions on there. And so you can build this fantasy together. Right. And have a lot of fun with it. I'm sure it will get weird or silly or whatever. But it's sort of like improv comedy. And where you're both just saying yes and moving forward, right? Or you can tease them. You can tease them. You write something that you're proud of and you really like it. And you're like, hey, or she's like, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm just doing some writing. Oh, you write? Yeah, I've been writing. What are you writing? Well, I've been writing out some erotic fantasies. And she's like, really? Because that's gonna pique the attention of just about every woman. If you tell a woman that you've been writing erotic fantasies, she may not ask to hear them, but she's gonna want to. So either she's gonna want to and says nothing because she's just afraid of either being prying, or she doesn't know if that will make you feel awkward, or that she doesn't want to make herself sound, I don't know, a certain way, or she will ask to hear it. And in which case, if she's the one side, you can just say, would you like to hear some? Or like giving her the permission if she's too shy, or she'll straight up ask, like, can I hear some? Because women love erotic fantasies. You know, we talk about this a lot. They absolutely love erotic fantasies. And it's funny, like the more research I do into it, I'm starting to think that just women think about this shit constantly. Like I'm sure there's tons of other things in life that they think about. I'm saying this is the only thing they think about. I'm saying they think there's a large space, let's just say that, there's a large space in their mind devoted toward erotic fantasies. Okay? So, and then you could take out the story, you could read it to her. It would be best if you could, say, send it over like a voice message. And the one that doesn't time out. All right. So I know with Apple phones, there's like Notes, or I think it's called Notes, and it's just a voice recording app. And you could let it record your voice for however long you want, and then it saves the file, and you could just send her that file. And what you do is you stop at a cliffhanger. Don't bring them to the climax of like a part of a scene, right? So let them go through. You bring closer and closer and closer. The anticipation is growing, and then that's all you've sent her. And she's gonna be like, what happens next? Like, she has an idea of what happens next, but she wants to hear it. She wants that confirmation. And you just led her up this hill, like building her anticipation, and you didn't give her release. And she's like, fuck, I want to hear more, right? And now you've got a power play happening. She wants to hear more. Well, have you been a good girl? And have you done what I've asked of you? So depending on, like, say, the type of dominant you are, again, knowing who you are will give you knowledge of how to move forward. If you're really into control, if you're, say, and these all get modified by how much of a sadist you are. All right. Some guys have a very high sadism slider on their board, and some have a very low sadism slider on their board. Okay. But regardless, you know, you can then say, well, have you done your chores today? Well, it's say, well, you can, or you can lead her even more and say, well, you know, I would really like to send you more of this story. But only if, and they like leave like ... And she's like, only if what? And then boom, like you've created the window, all right? And you say like, well, only if ... And she's like, only if what? She dives right through the window, and you're like, gotcha. And you say, only if you do X, Y, Z. And you know, and this could be anything to do with her goals, or something you just want her to do, something perhaps embarrassing. Let's say you've got a large degradation, humiliation thing going on your slider board. So and let's say she does as well. And so now you make her do something a little bit humiliating in public, or something along those lines. Or maybe even in private, and she just has to show you photos. And then you're like, okay, good girl. And then you give her the reward of hearing the rest of the story. So that there's just so much fun. There's so much fun shit that you can do within this world. Like within this power dynamic world. And it all comes down to first knowing what you're about, what moves you, what gets you excited. Okay? I like the double binds. Like you could tell, like as I was telling that story, I was getting my energy shifted. Like I started getting like woken up a little bit more, because that sort of thing moves me. Like I like creating the window and just calmly waiting for them to walk right through it. And then when they do, the noose grabs them around the ankle and flings them up into the air. And I'm like, I got you, sucker. But she wanted to be gotten, which makes it all the more enjoyable and fun and like mentally complex. And I don't know, it's just great shit, you know? So yeah, there's a lot to it. If you guys want to learn more, if you want to see about how you can bring this into your relationships, and when you think you can't, you absolutely can. And trust me, Peach, I don't know if you're still here, but you can confirm women fucking love this shit. They love it. And the sad part is there's such a small portion of the population amongst males that know how to play this way, that have the mental relaxation, that aren't just like, oh my God, I gotta put my dick in your pussy so fast right away, right now. I'm losing time. Like, dude, like there's so much you can play with if you just slow that down. The textures, everything just becomes much more vivid once you give some space between fucking, right? Between like not fucking and fucking. If you just create some space there to relax and breathe and think, and so you can play, my goodness, the options are through the roof of what you can do. As long as you have the patience and the calm and the control over your sexual impulses and the desire, or whatever the feeling is that you get when you can tell a woman is just getting more and more turned on, and you're just like dangling the carrot in front of her face. And you're like, not yet, not yet. I'm not satisfied yet. You don't look desperate enough to fuck. I'm not satisfied. I need to see you like a mental mess that you can think nothing else but to be with me intimately. Okay? But if you're aimed at just getting laid as fast as possible, and just going and then you're done, and then move on to the next one, and then done, it's like you're missing out on so much. Now, I'm trying to be convincing here, okay? Because hey, it's part of my business. What I'm trying to do here, this is what I do. I help guys develop in this way so they can express themselves in this way. But by no means am I saying this is how men should be. I am not into shoulds. If you're a guy who just likes to fuck women and from one to the next, and you could give a flying rat's ass about anything else, no depth or anything like that, you don't care, God bless you. I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I'm not going to say what you're doing is wrong and that what I'm doing is right. That's not how I move. I don't have that kind of judgment over other men. If you just want to sleep with women and have a new woman every week or every few days or every couple days or every day, I don't care. All right? What I am saying is that there's more to it. If you have that experience, right? And there's like I'm working with well, I won't say who they are, but I'm working with this guy who has had lots of women, and he realized at the end, right? He did the full circle. Like he was like one of these guys who naturally just was not good with women. He spent many years studying and getting really good at influencing a woman such that more often than not, they're ready to have sex with him right away, same night, not even before the night's done. It's like within just a few moments of meeting him, okay? And he got so good at this to maybe, I don't know, prove to himself that he was a skilled guy, that he was a desirable guy. I'm sure at the very beginning it was fueled by some kind of insecurity, all right? And a fight against that insecurity. And like, whatever, that's not neither here nor there, but he went full circle. So he did this for a time, got very, very good, and just like the hero's journey, he comes back home, all right? Always in the hero's journey is they come back home. And he came back home to himself and realized that through all those adventures, that it didn't bring him any kind of peace. It didn't bring him satisfaction, because what he was looking for really, now that he's become wiser, is that he was really just looking for himself the entire time. And they realized that he was never, no matter how many women he fucks, he's never going to have complete satisfaction of self. Because you cannot find yourself through the legs of a woman. You never, ever will. You will never find yourself in a woman. That's just not how it works. You can only find yourself in yourself. And sometimes people, they can get to that understanding quickly, and some people need to go all the way around and have lots of experiences, and they come back around and they go, fuck, I didn't really need to do all that, because I realize now that it's just a matter of like flipping the mirror. That's all it is. It's just flipping the mirror so that you can now see yourself. Oh, you guys can see my nail. I had, those iron doors that shut. They're in New York City. They're like on the grounds, and they open up like this, and you can get access to the basement. I was closing one, and the fucking iron doors closed and pinched my fingernail. I haven't felt pain like that in a very, very long time. I'm just happy that the nail didn't fall off. But yeah, that's broken blood vessels in there. It's been there for weeks now. But anyways, so yeah, he went full circle and realized that women are not the answer. Women have never been the answer. All they are is a conduit, or all they can be. Okay, I'm not gonna say what they are, but all they can be is a conduit for your expression. And think about it. If you're a shithead, if you're a complete shithead, do you think you're going to get the best out of your woman, or best out of a woman? Okay, if you're expressing yourself through her and you're a shithead in whatever degree, she's going to adapt and react to that. And she's going to, so basically you're expressing yourself through her. It's going to pass through the filters of her and come out with her behavior over here, and it's going to be a direct reflection of you being a shithead. Right? Because, like I say, you're always leading. You're always leading a woman. Always. So if there's fucked up behavior going on, or lackluster, or lazy, or joyful, or peaceful, it's due to your expression. And that has to do with how you relate with yourself. So, like, you're never going to find peace through that. That's just a pathway that happens. It's just a means of your expression. You're never going to find yourself in the legs of a woman. Just remember that. You can fuck thousands of girls, and you will never be at peace. So for you guys who are listening, and you think that getting women, or lots of women, is going to solve your problems, it's not. It's going to temporarily make you feel good. And if that's what you're into, you're like, yeah, fine, of course, that's what I want. Okay, fine. Okay. But you're going to need that drug hit again and again and again and again and again until you learn. And hopefully you learn sooner than later, so that you don't go through life being an incomplete man looking for yourself in other people. Especially women. Because a lot of times this will let you down. You'll feel crushed when she doesn't want anything to do with you anymore, or there's a divorce. All right? When she realizes that you're just not that guy. You know, I was watching Steve's show earlier this evening, and he was talking about divorce. Like, this guy called in, and he was talking about like the problems that guys have and all this stuff, and divorce, and he mentioned divorce a couple of times. And Steve was like, yo, she, like, the woman who's leaving a guy through divorce, she's divorced him long ago, before the papers were filed, even before the papers were even in her hand, or before she even called her lawyer, okay, or the mediator or whatever. Okay, that divorce happened months or years ago, and it just took some time for those things to fall into place, to then get the paperwork and say, I don't want to be married anymore. And then the guy, the idiot, he's like, it happened out of the blue. I don't know what the fuck happened. It's like, dude, you led her there. You led her there with your ignorance. You led her there with your ego. You led her there with your laziness. You led her there with your pride. So it's like, But these guys, these idiots, they think, oh man, who's like talking to their buddy in the bar, man, and then fucking out of the blue, she serves me divorce papers. And it's like, no, it wasn't out of the blue, you moron. She had this staked out months ago or even years ago. And you're just catching up. That's it. You're just playing catch up at this point. All right. But you don't get into these kind of situations with great knowledge of yourself. You don't, like, you drastically lessen these situations. It brings down fear. The more you trust yourself, the less you're afraid. Right? The more you trust yourself, the less of things in life you are afraid of. Because you're like, yeah, I have faith in myself that I can do these things, I can complete these things, that this thing or that thing or life or the world or whatever is not going to take me out. I'm fine. I'm forever. Well, not forever, but, conceptually. I don't know what this is in relation to solar power. I heard Russia's in the top 5 for high testosterone in the world. I don't know. Perhaps they use less plastic bottles, in their water supply. Perhaps there's less pharmaceuticals in their water. Perhaps people have less sedentary lifestyles. I do know that testosterone is more easily gotten in Western Europe. I had a friend who moved to Belarus because you can literally walk into like just a regular drugstore and grab a bottle of testosterone off the shelf like you're buying a bottle of vitamin C. And it's like dirt cheap because it's completely legal there. And check this out. People don't abuse it. Isn't that funny? When you make something that is available to the public, they don't abuse it because they don't feel like they're having to like scheme and like get away with something bad, right? You give it to people, and then probably there was like maybe like a flurry, like maybe if this were to change immediately, say in the US, there'd be a flurry of people, and then it would die down, and then it'd just be like, it's just this regular thing, But honestly, I don't understand why. I mean, it could be a conspiracy theory about it, but I just don't understand why something like testosterone is illegal. Like why you need a prescription for it, why it's considered a controlled substance, why you can go to jail if you're selling testosterone. It blows my mind. I don't get it at all, because but then so that's illegal, but there's like a fucking methadone clinic, like a half mile away. It's like that methadone's okay to give to people, but it's not okay to give guys testosterone. It's like, what? How does that make any sense? Make that make sense. Like if it's used properly. Okay, first of all, it's impossible to OD on testosterone. It's impossible. You cannot OD on testosterone. The worst that could happen is that your blood pressure will skyrocket if you take a lot of it. Okay, so if you just take like a shit ton, like let's say you take like 3 grams a week, right? 3,000 milligrams, which is a lot. This is like pro bodybuilder level. I think like pros take like 2 grams, maybe 3 grams a week. That's a lot. Okay. The worst that's going to happen really is really high blood pressure and really high cholesterol, because it'll increase the amount of red blood cells in your blood, making it thicker. All right. So the pressure will increase due to that thickness. So, and then you might have to take medicine or give blood, or, a lot of those bodybuilders, they give blood because they have to, right? Otherwise they'll have some serious complications, maybe hospitalization, but not ODing. Okay. And then the plus sides are fantastic. Like the plus sides of testosterone are absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's other ones that are not so great, like, so it messes with your cholesterol, your blood pressure, perhaps your I forget the acronyms, but there's one like having to do with hair. It can cause hair loss. But then at the same time, it can cause other hair to grow, like beards and back hair. Okay. So, a bit of like around my lats, like since I've been on TRT for I don't know how many years now, maybe 12, 15 years, something like that. Like around my lats, I've gotten hairy. It's not like a carpet, like those guys at the beach. You ever see those old guys? I love those old guys. They're like built like it's always an old white guy, and their torso, like shoulders to hip, it's like this very square shape, and then they've got these like itty bitty legs underneath, and sometimes they're wearing a tank top, and they're these giant tufts of white hair like puffed out of their back. I like it's one of the funniest things that I love to see at the beach. And they have this like golden leathery tan skin that just looks completely unnatural. But it's because they're retired. They got nothing to do, so they just like bang around on the beach for hours on end, and they just have this like like construction workers look the same, like white construction workers. They get that golden leather look to their skin. And sometimes these guys will have a gold chain. They're like, "What's up, ladies?" And the tuft of their hair is coming out the top of the tank top. I love them. These guys cannot be replaced. I'm reminded of that. Any SpongeBob fans? There's like a superhero. I can't remember his name, but in SpongeBob, there's this superhero, and he has like a starfish on his face, and he's built just like that. Like he's got this square body with these like itty bitty peg legs, Oh, what's up, Daniel? I realize that what I want with women is psychological, meaning to say that their desire gives me a boost of confidence. I've had sex with few women before. It just made me feel empty. Yeah. It's just using women. It's just using them to feel better about yourself. And what Daniel describes here, where he says that their desire gives me a boost of confidence. This is most guys. Like most guys have a really fucked up relationship with sex. They have a really fucked up relationship with women. And so you're not like, I hope you're not surprised at the dismal state of relationships, of the high divorce rate. Okay. And you want to be quick, like so many guys who are just like stupid, right? They're quick to judge women on this. And they're not looking deeper into it, and they're not looking at the entire picture. Because if they did, they would understand. They would understand. Like, women fucking love men. And for those of you who don't understand, you're going to be like, please, look at them. They're all single. Yeah, it's because there's so few men. They're single because they've tasted plenty of males and said, fuck, none of these are men. Because if they had tasted a man, they would desperately be trying to be with him. They'd be working to be with him. They'd be campaigning to be on his program. Or if they got on his program, they'd be trying to stay there. And because, not out of fear, maybe a little bit of fear, because she doesn't want to be, just dejected from the situation, but mostly because of how amazing she feels, because of what it does to her emotional states. And it's like, because it's such a stark difference between that and the sea of males that she has encountered. It's like, I don't want to let this go. I can't let this go. I really, really don't want to miss this opportunity. And so it's like, when you understand like the larger picture of what's happening here, instead of your little tiny egotistical existence with your lack of experience and tons of degrees and diplomas from the University of YouTube, you can't get it. You won't understand these things. You won't understand them at all. It's like, I don't know. I don't have much of a bleeding heart. So, take it lightly when I say I feel for these women out here. And and I'm not trying to say that to make anybody feel bad. I'm not trying to pander to women. It's just understanding the whole structure. And, I feel bad for society because, we're kind of fucked without men. And that's what's happening. Like, people are blaming women. They're like, oh man, these women, they're getting educated. My God, Jeeves, she's got an education. She's gone to college, for crying out loud. She likes sex. Oh my goodness, women are having sex. They're having sex and they're getting educated. The world is coming to an end. I can already smell it burning from here. Like, that's how guys sounds today. They sounds like what was that old story about the little hen who thought that it was starting to rain, but because she was so stupid, she thought the sky was falling, and she was running around to all the other animals, getting them scared, saying, hey, horse, the sky is falling, you're gonna have to. I can't remember like the whole story of like what she was telling them to do and what not to do, but she was running around to all the farm animals telling them that the sky is falling because a raindrop hit her on the head. And a chicken's head is like this big, so their brain is like, I don't know, the size of my fucking pinky nail. And this is what these guys are like. They're like that little red hen running around fear-mongering to other people of their ignorance. And if you only knew the larger picture of things, then you'd be like, oh shit, like, yeah, it's fucked up, but it'd be a whole lot better if we had men out there. If we had men in the world leading, influencing, and not paying so much attention to pussy. They have control over their desires and their impulses. They can actually lead. Like, do you really think, I mean, this is an extreme example, but do you really think that Marcus Aurelius had insatiable desire to fuck? No. You cannot build an empire. Okay? You can't build an empire to the size that he did and be obsessed with pussy. Now, he probably got all kinds of sex, right? Actually, back then, there's probably more bisexual people or openly gay people than we would, that a lot of you would care to imagine. But I'm sure that sex was not a priority, and he got it whenever. Right? But didn't even pay attention because he was like, no, I'm creating a fucking empire. I'm going to try to take over the whole world. Like, imagine being in that space. Like, he literally wanted to take over the entire world. Okay? And there's been other leaders who had similar visions. Genghis Khan had one of the largest territories of any world influencer, leader, conqueror, whatever. Okay? England, they controlled large parts of the world for a long time. It's like, just imagine, like, that's the plan for the day. Like, writing it in your notebook, like, okay, I'm gonna like take over France now. Okay? Just to fathom being in that headspace of being like, I'm going to conquer lots of people and large pieces of land. Like, that's a trip. Do you think these guys are thinking about pussy? No. Now, to like bring it down, let's bring it down to earth again. All right. You don't have to be a conqueror. All right. But you can move a little bit like one. You can think a little bit like one. You can feel and behave a little bit like one. All right? You don't have to take over your neighborhood. Okay? You don't have to, just be having a bunch of people like conquering people's homes and shit. That's not what I'm saying, but more of their presence, more of your focus, your will. And it's not about pushing away these bitches, right? Because I mentioned in other shows, pushing is the same as pulling. It's the same energy, just in a different direction. And whenever you push against something, okay, if you remember anything from your physics class, when you push down, there's an equal amount of force pushing up. Right? You're pushing down on the earth is pushing up. So that's what's happening. So whenever you push against a concept, I don't fucking believe in XYZ. I don't, women, whatever, all right? All you're doing is strengthening the thing that you're trying to push out. You're making it even more dense. It's like that little science experiment that I used to do with my kids when they were young. We made this shit called oobleck. I don't know if you're familiar with oobleck, but it's this stuff. I think it's like equal parts water and flour, maybe, or maybe baking soda is part of it. I'm not sure, but you put it in a Ziploc bag, and if you hold the Ziploc bag gently in your hands, it will ooze and flow. Okay, like you don't even need it in the Ziploc bag. You just kind of scoop it out of the bowl that you mixed it in, and you put it in your hands and you gently hold it, and it'll just start oozing out, and it'll just flow like mud. Okay, but if you quickly squeeze it, the cells compact together and become hard as a rock. Okay, so it's kind of like that. But you've got to, you got to just have the mentality, so whenever you do that, right? Like the pushing away of women. I don't want women. Fuck these bitches. Fuck these hoes. Okay. All you're doing is making the concept of bitches and hoes and women denser and denser and denser, just like that oobleck. You're squeezing it, and it's becoming even more dense. It's becoming a more real concept in your mind the more you push. In the same way, where a guy's like, I gotta have pussy, I gotta get women, I gotta get more, I want to have this experience, I want to stick my pee in them, right? And you're pulling, right? It's the same exact thing. You're hardening, solidifying, and making the concept of women more dense in your mind. All right? The only true way through is to gently let go of all of it. You just let it go. All right? Get off of YouTube where they're just shit talking women. Get off of YouTube where they're telling you how to get women or how to rid yourself of women. So the red pill shit and all those MGTOW motherfuckers, all that stuff. Rid, push. Density. Okay? The pickup artists. This is how you get women. This is how you talk to women. This is how you get women. Get. Density. You're fucked either way. So it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter at all. What matters is just letting it go. Letting go of your attachments. Again, like I said, you're not going to find peace through women. You're not going to find wholeness. You're not going to find satisfaction. You're just going to get high. That's all you're doing. You're just going to put that band. That's all you're doing. That's it. You're to our lesson earlier today, you're objectifying them. Okay, but not in a healthy, kinky sort of way that they're consenting to. You're doing it without their knowledge. They don't even know that you're using them like this emotional drug. Yes, that's it. Yes, it's a non-Newtonian fluid. Yep. Slurry liquid, but solidify when energy is transferred. And any of you guys, actually, a quick, fun little fact, any of you guys are motorcycle riders, right? There's an armor company, right? They make armor that kind of has like these little pads that are shaped to your body that slip into special jackets with pockets. So you have armor on your shoulders. There's like back protectors that slide into pockets. So, your jacket or whatever has this armor in case you crash. And there's this company that made this product called D30 or D30. And this is a rubber, and it's very pliable. It's a little bit heavy because it's a non-Newtonian fluid, and but it's able to hold its shape. So it's like, I don't know, it's somewhere in between. But if you were to take a hammer, like you put it on the ground and you whack it with a sledgehammer, the shit gets dense like instantaneously. And it's a really, really cool product. It's just interesting how people are using these non-Newtonian systems. So, but yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it. So, yeah, man, we jumped around a lot. So I hope you guys got a lot out of this one. I had fun talking about this shit, even though it started off terrible with these belligerent drunks outside of my home. But yeah, so I hope this was educational for you. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for those who are going to be watching on the replay, and for you guys who are coming in here leaving comments in the chat. That was fantastic as well. As this channel grows and more people are watching on the live, what I'm going to do is, instead of having call-ins, I'm just going to put the invite in the chat, and anyone can come up and get on and ask a question, have a little dialogue. And you don't necessarily need a camera. If you don't want one, I don't care. I've got a friend who does this, and she's like, no, your camera has to be there. I don't give a shit. Just as long as you got a good mic, or just something that I can hear you well through, that's fine. So yeah, I'll be doing that in the future. And I think I'm about halfway through the new book on how to be a fantastic lover. So there's a lot in it. I realized that the section on eating pussy is huge. and it's funny because, like, I never really sat down and thought about it. I never really thought about, like, the intricacies of eating pussy well. And there's a lot to it. There's like a few pages worth that I wrote about how to properly eat pussy, if you're into that sort of thing. I like it. But I'm not a fanatic. I know there's some fanatics out there, but I'm not a fanatic, but I do enjoy it. So yeah. But anyways, thank you guys for coming through. I appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next stream. Until then, take it easy.